welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us.
Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. It's Andy Goldman, Mike McLaughlin, and here we go. Week 7 of the NFL season. This show is brought to you in part by Wrightwood Medical. You can reach Wrightwood Medical directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, RIGHTWOOD medical.com, or 773-848-7100. They're your leader in refurbished medical equipment. Away we go. Mike, where do we start? Where do we end? Every single week, it seems like there is a new drama, a new something I've learned in the league. You take it from there, boss. I've loved this season. I love every season. I'm a football junkie. I don't know why they can come up with all of these different endings and the best author. You could have Clancy, you could have Pat Conroy, you could have Hemingway. They could not come up with all of these different endings. They're incredible.
Yeah, and off air, you're blaming me for Brian Callahan being fired, and I said he earned that firing.
Grassroots effort on taking it to the streets to get Brian Callahan fired. For Mike McLaughlin, they were listening to the sunny streets of Tampa and St. Pete, and he is gone. The Wicked Witch of the North is gone.
No, he's the Wicked Witch of the AFC South. The thing that annoyed me, I don't know if you saw the press conference. I didn't see it. I heard it. But the owner didn't show up. Amy Scrunk, which is kind of BS in my opinion. If you're gonna be the owner of a team and you're trying to cultivate this image that you're not a completely incompetent franchise, have the decency to show up and explain why you fired the guy. I mean, you don't need it, but they sent in some lackey, and Amy Scrunk didn't show up, which I don't know. That's if you're gonna fire someone, have the cojones to show up and answer it. Because they asked them about it, and she said, "Oh no, she's at home right now." It's like, so she's available. You just don't have the nerve to show up, which is
could not agree with you more.
Fundamental problem with
could not agree with you more. I think it says everything about her as a person and about the franchise as a franchise, about how embarrassed she is at her core that they even hired Callahan. It's all wrapped up into one. You're right. She's the face of the franchise. Be out there taking the heat. And obviously, I know you got a problem with Aaron Glenn as well. There needs to be a moment here with Glenn on the same level, but the Glenn thing is a little bit different. He didn't start out 3-18. He was, I don't know where you fall on Fields, whether it was, again, we talked about it last week about whether you inherit, whether it's your option or not. And I don't know.
And that's an organization that, Woody Johnson has meddled, and Saleh got fired last year because he got embarrassed in front of his buddies when he was the head of the ambassador to the UK. And that's one of the main reasons that Saleh got fired. And if you look at how their defense has performed since Saleh left, it has dropped. I think they went from like number 1 in DVOA when he was coaching to like 30th.
They were the first team in the history of the NFL, and I know this because I have them as my defense in fantasy, and this is the only reason I would even know something like this, that started the season 0-5 and had 0 takeaways.
Yeah. And
almost impossible to do that, Mike. It's almost, they had a good game in overseas in Denver. They had a safety. They played well, but I'm just talking about the first 5 before that. 0-5, 0 takeaways. It's almost humanly impossible.
And Glenn was brought in as a defensive mind, and they've got Steve Wilkes, who was, I think he bounced around the league. He was in San Francisco, and then he was the head coach, interim head coach after Rule got fired. And sometimes defensive schemes, guys age out and don't know what you got to make that change, and loyalty is important, but they got to show some changes. But I don't know if you watched the game in Denver. It was the end of the first half. I've never seen anything like it. Like Kurt Warner, said, I don't know what to say here. And Rich Eisen's like, well, it's your job as a color analyst. You need to talk. And he said, because They faked a kick and they faked a punt to go from 4th and 1 to put them at the 50-yard line. They then have the ball at the 50-yard line with the clock running down, and they let the clock run down. They didn't try to throw a bomb. They didn't try to throw a Hail Mary. I mean, I'm like sitting there going, how can this happen? And then at the end of the game, it's 4th down.
He took a sack. He took a sack.
He's a 50-year player. You cannot take a sack there. You throw
it up in the air.
Who cares? I mean, if Tyrod Taylor is in that game, I think there is a legitimate chance that Denver could have lost that game. With Fields, I don't think it's been 5 years. He's proven that he's like a guy that you can bring in as a spot player, but he's not a long-term solution. And if Glenn can't figure that out, he's not going to be. He could be one and done, because Woody Johnson isn't exactly the most patient owner.
And Mike, to that point, we're seeing whether, I don't know what NFL people are watching out there, but to that point you just made about why they felt compelled to go out in the free agent market and get Fields. And Fields was a first-round pick way back when with Chicago. But we're seeing, if you're watching the same game I am, Joe Flacco can keep you in a game in this NFL. Very important part of the sentence. In this NFL, Joe Flacco can keep you around. Jacoby Brissett can keep you around, meaning they can keep you in it to the 59th minute, kind of around, and throw for over 300 yards. Mac Jones can keep you in a game in this NFL. So the idea that there's a big disparity between Justin Fields and Jacoby Brissett is insane.
Yeah, there's the only disparity is in their paychecks. He got $20 million. I think he got a 2-year, $30 million contract. And
my problem is with scouting specifically, because scouting is the arm and player personnel that deem there to be a big spread between Justin Fields and Jacoby Brissett, or Justin Fields and Joe Flacco. And the funny thing about Joe Flacco is he's been deemed as a number one by 2 different teams this season. A number one. Okay? So get over it, everybody. These teams have extremely deep player personnel and scouting units, and they both deem Joe Flacco. And I got news for you, Mike. Given the teams that he's played with, he's having a good year. There's nothing wrong with the way this last one he's brought to Cincinnati, this awful Cincinnati, midweek, and he keeps them around for the 59th minute and makes some throws in the second half. Everybody, this guy is not that bad.
Well, and it's, there is something to experience, and it's one of those things. It's like all these quarterbacks that have revived their career, I would take a pay cut. Instead of going to New York or going to Tennessee or go take an internship in Minnesota, go take an internship in San Francisco, go take an internship in LA. And what I mean by an internship, take base pay. I want a 1-year deal because I want to go learn from one of these guys. That's what I would do. It's like in college, a lot of these quarterbacks, these 4 and 5-star quarterbacks that aren't getting picked up are making the decision to go to smaller schools to show what they've got, because they'll get a chance to play, because half the colleges now are taking veteran guys, and you may be a 4-star, but you're not going to know as much as a guy that's actually played it. So to me, if I'm Fields, if I get cut, or my next stop, it's not with Kyle Shanahan, Kevin, what's the guy in Minnesota? Kevin O'Connell or Sean McVay, then you as an agent have failed your client, because you have proven to me that going in and taking the money doesn't always make you a better career. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, every single one of them got exposed to a coach when their careers were on the rocks and made huge improvements. So to me, it's a paid internship. You're not. It's not like you need the money, but you can make so much more money if you can learn from these guys. And I'm baffled that more players don't do that. Daniel Jones, he was there for how many weeks in Minnesota? They signed him after the Giants cut him. He looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now. And there is something to learning how to play the position, because anybody who thinks that they could go out there and complete a pass in the NFL does not have a clue with how complex and how much things you need to process. And I think when I watch,
hence the premium on Joe Flacco.
correct. But when you watch Fields, him taking a sack is him not seeing and understanding what he's seeing on the field and being afraid to make a mistake and not being situationally aware. And to me, I would, if I was his agent, I would advise him, you got to go to one of these three guys. I don't care if you're third string, suck it up. If you want to make it, you're going to learn if you can make it in this system. So that would be what I would advise a client if I was an agent. The other thing I was going to talk about is if I told you at the beginning of the year, these were the 3 one-loss teams, would you have believed it? The Colts, the Bucs, and the Steelers. I don't include the Packers in that because they have a tie, and that's kissing your sister. And I don't count ties. A tie is a loss in my book. So if you're 3-1-1 with your odd little record, I don't count it. And especially when I haven't been impressed with the Packers all season yet, but the Colts and the Bucs and the Steelers, that you would have made a mint if you had said, hey, we know there's going to be these 3 teams with 1 losses. Nobody would have ever predicted that. And, the Bucs schedule is about to get hard. The Steelers schedule is about to get hard. The Colts schedule is about to get hard. They haven't exactly played a murderer's row. The Bucs have gotten some scheduling breaks. They're playing the Lions this week. They lost Brian Branch, who was, punched a guy at that punch.
Yeah. Just gambling.
He used her. Juju seems like he has a punchable face, but it does not, you can't do that. And the league suspended him. I'm surprised it was only 1 game, because doing that on a Sunday night in front of the national, on your biggest product, Chiefs, Lions, that's a bad look for the NFL. I was actually surprised it was only 1 game. Then we had, to add insult to injury to the Miami Dolphins, they shouldn't be allowed to schedule the Chargers in Miami. It's just cruel. Having to watch Justin Herbert versus Tua and say, we had in the draft, we could have taken this guy and we took Tua, who is after the game pointing fingers, who is saying we're having players only meetings and people aren't showing up. There's a respect level. It's like, that's on you. It's a players only meeting. That means they don't respect you. Don't throw McDaniel. And the boy genius is, lost his luster, McDaniel, but that's on him. And if McDaniel's press conference, he kind of, you could tell he was pissed that he was doing that. He's like, we don't need this right now. We're a floundering team, and you've got a guy who is supposedly the franchise quarterback who can't run the ball because he's a concussion waiting to happen. He makes 1 read, and if the read's not there, he doesn't know what to do. And then you got Herbert, who's willing his team with, an injured offensive line with backup running backs. Kamani Vidal, he must be related to Sassoon Vidal, but I don't know who these guys are. And, between the Dolphins, the Bengals, and the Cowboys, are there 3 worst defenses that have ever, but maybe the Ravens, I still, I hold out hope for the Ravens. But the Ravens at least have an excuse. Dallas, the Bengals, and the Dolphins have how much money invested in their defensive line, and you're going up against the backup offensive line, and you're not sacking Herbert. He's driving down the field at the end of the game. So, it's got to be, I'm not, the boy genius is not making it through the season. This team's ready to turn on them, and I think they're ready to turn on Tua. And then
I agree with you, Mike. I'm a broken record. I don't think there's such a thing as a good running back And I don't think there's such a thing as a good wide receiver. And if you think that's crazy, go tell Vegas that there's such a thing. Couple points of fact before I let you continue on with what we learned, because I do want to just a couple of points of fact about why I don't think there's such a good thing as a good running back. I always think that the running back numbers are afforded to him 100% by the offensive line. And I actually give James Cook from Buffalo, a team that I've ridden so mercilessly into the ground I will not get off, Buffalo Bills, who never cease to amaze me with how poorly they can play. Last night was insane. First time on the road. I don't consider going to the Jets in-state a road game. So James Cook, before the game, gets the microphone stuck in his face, and of course the doting sideline reporter that's a step above wanting to ask for an autograph wants to, of course, compliment him on his incredible numbers. And he says, my numbers are completely afforded to me by the offensive line. Case in point, end of story. First time I ever heard a running back basically be that humble and that honest about his role in the story. Second point about wide receivers. Yesterday, the line was 4.5, was a Washington minus 4.5 against the Bears. Terry McLaurin was declared out. Then Noah Brown was declared out. And Deebo Samuel was questionable / doubtful for the game. He ends up catching 4 balls, I think, for 15 yards for the game. What do you think Vegas does with the line? They added a point to it. They made it 5.5. Now, do you realize how insulting that is, A, to wide receivers that actually think they're good and have an effect on the game, and how Vegas construes it? What Vegas basically said was, okay, now we know, unless this team's out of their mind, that they're going to have to run the ball and use their running quarterback against the team that allows 6.5 yards a carry on the ground. We're going to add a point to it. But the truth is, they keep it at 4.5 if McLaurin and Noah Brown are in there, because Quinn doesn't have the guts to not feed them and throw them the ball. So just a little bit of a side. I don't know if you agree, disagree with that.
Well,
those are hard numbers.
Yeah, and I'm going to point one out because I looked while you were talking, because I thought to myself, well, is there a receiver that does affect the line? And I'm looking at the Jaguars-Rams game. Puka Nacua dropped the line. It went from 4.5 was the opening line. It's at 3. So he moved the line. People were nervous about that. But he is, if you look at what his target share is in the Rams, I think he and Devontae Adams are getting like 56% of the targets. So that's a huge drop off. So it does. I don't agree that there aren't great receivers. I don't agree that there aren't great running backs. I do agree that you need a great offensive line solves a lot of problems. But there are some, the term great gets thrown around too easily. But Nacua is, I mean, if you look at what his stats are, and speaking, I know everybody cares about our fantasy teams, and I've got Nacua, so he's like having an ATM. So, but he did move the line, but it doesn't happen as often as you think. That's the ultimate compliment when they move the line.
I don't know who else is on the injury report to say yes or no for the Rams game. So I don't know. I mean, is it just Nacua that's on the injury list? Probably not. I mean, they have multiple players.
Yeah, I mean, but he's the biggest name, and I'm just, like I said, I don't.
He's not moving the line 1.5, but I get the point. The other way is, like I said, look at either you think that these. I just don't. I think that's the living incarnate of why we've seen like what we saw with Cincinnati, Green Bay. I mean, they're out there and they just have the ultimate game manager in Flacco, who really doesn't make many mistakes. Seems like he only has 6 or 7 good throws a game, but they're big. Like the throw he makes in the back of the end zone that most guys can't still make on 4th down to make that a game in the 4th quarter. Don't kid yourself, everybody. That was a game. There's no other way of putting it. That was Cincinnati was dead game in that game at Lambeau. There's no reason to call it any other way. I was incredible. So
yeah, no, he's doing what guys like Fields and guys like who's the guy who replaced? I'm drawing a blank on his name now. He's so useless.
What are you talking about?
The backup that he replaced
At Cincy?
Yeah, Browning. Yeah, I mean Browning was a turnover machine. Flacco knows on fourth down, I'm throwing the ball to one of these two guys. It's either going to Higgins or it's going to Chase, and let them make a play as opposed to, Fields taking a sack. It's, that's what you get with age. You get some wisdom. Tom Brady always said, and Peyton Manning was the same way. They wish they knew what they did when they had the skills that they do. I mean,
Mike, the public, of course, and I'm going to go over this when I give a few of my things that I learned, but they're going to always be ignorant to what I just said. They'll go down in their grave kicking and screaming and crying. Oh my God, there's great running backs. What's he talking about? There's great wide receivers. That's the public. That's the guy that wears a jersey and goes to a sports book and bets a $25 parlay. So this is not for them. Turn this off, okay, if you're that guy.
I need to turn it off because I do that.
Yeah. This show's not for you. So from my perspective and where I sit, the Kansas City-Detroit game turned on a dime when the highest paid receiver missed a cookie on fourth down, that being Amon St. Brown. Okay? Now, that'll be something Vegas would know that the public is in utter denial over. Wasn't Thornton, wasn't Hollywood Brown, wasn't Xavier Worthy, wasn't Jameson Williams. It was a mammoth drop that the game turned completely against Detroit because it, A, gave Kansas City a 2-for-1 opportunity, and B, was a change of possession, and he's the highest paid receiver. So Vegas is sitting in the back and laugh and say, oh my God, does anybody know that Ross St. Brown is the highest paid receiver and he's the one who lost the game for him? Second point, Derrick Henry single-handedly has lost Baltimore 2 games this year. Single-handedly. They don't lose Buffalo and they don't lose Detroit. Rewind the tape. Those were insane and incredibly costly. So careful how you value the running back and the wide receiver. That's all I'm saying. Careful, careful, careful. If in your brain you've got it more than a half point, I think you need to get your head checked.
I'm getting an MRI tomorrow.
Go get the MRI. You think Henry's worth more than a half point to a game?
I do. I think it is not every player. I think there are players that warrant the change. And I do think that, the Amon drop was bad, but the guy's made more plays than he's missed. I mean, that guy is about as dependable as of a receiver as you can get in the league. He catches more balls. I also thought that touchdown that they called back on Goff was a little ticky-tacky. I mean, that was the Chiefs. It's getting back to Chiefs season where the referees, hey, if we can go anywhere. And I'm not saying.
And look, there was
just
good,
because I meant on the line.
Yeah, no, there was a good 87% of the money. It's cruel how badly the public took a beating in that game, and it does make you wonder. It does for the conspiracy theorists out there. It does make you wonder when they said that Goff wasn't set as a receiver, hence it was procedure, and it does make you wonder.
Why? If you drop someone from another country into an NFL game and then ask them to figure out what the hell's going on. I mean, I watched football. I've watched football my entire life, and I'm still like, what is the purpose of calling that penalty? And it's like, and there was no flag on the play. They called it after the fact, and I'm sitting there going, it's just micromanaging, and it's like, again, we go back to the point of these guys aren't even full-time employees because the NFL is too cheap to pay them.
Right.
That's I'm employed.
Right.
They're not the youngest. They're not the healthiest. These are the guys that, hey, we're never going to get rid of them. Their jobs for life. They have probably a stronger union, to be very honest, than the players do, because there's less of them. So
You're talking about the coach, the refereeing fraternity is tighter than the coaches fraternity.
It absolutely is.
It's ridiculous. All right. Any other points, Mike? Because I'm going to give you a couple of where I'm coming from.
No, I'm good.
Before we get to our picks, here is what a couple of things that I learned from last week. So one of the analogies that just ripped through my brain last night was, and follow me on this, Costco. So for all you people out there that shop at Costco, I am a big Costco guy. Mike, are you a Costco guy?
I enjoy going there, but I always spend too much, so I try to avoid it.
Okay, so Costco,
Great by not visiting.
right? Costco, obviously, you shop in bulk. There's where your savings is. You pay for a membership. We get the point. Costco has their brand of like product. It's called Kirkland. Okay, they do everything from Anejo Tequila to toilet paper. There's the Kirkland brand.
Those two are often bought together.
By me there. That's why I went there. So they have golf balls. They have everything, basically, as the Kirkland brand. They have 7 times distilled vodka, which would be the premium of the premium if you're a vodka person. It's half price of what the brand name would be because it's Kirkland. You got to be willing, when you have friends over, to open up the vodka and have it say Kirkland on it instead of Grey Goose. Okay, there's an image. I have it. I don't enjoy doing that, quite frankly. You got to do that. In exchange, you get great stuff at 50% off. I think that's Detroit and Atlanta. I think Atlanta's the Kirkland brand of Detroit. Either you really need the name brand aspect of Detroit and the panache and the perceived talent, or you're fine with a team that's pretty much the same. Go down the roster as them, but they got to have Falcons on the jersey instead of Detroit. That's my first point. They're the same team. And, again, you want to pay twice as much for Detroit, or you want half price with Atlanta? That's my first point. I don't know where you are on that, Mike, but to me, they're the same damn team.
Yeah, I think Atlanta showed something last night, and we talked about it last week about there's a way to beat the Bills, and it was running on them, and they ran on them. And I knew you were home free the second that happened, because they just couldn't stop them. I mean, it was like they didn't know you were allowed to tackle Bijan. I mean, he was going up and down the field and catching the ball, and I hate seeing that Atlanta may be figuring it out, because that's a problem for the Bucs, and I think the Bucs got them at the right time. They got them early, as opposed to when they're starting to figure it out. Ulrich is blitzing better. I mean, when's the last time Atlanta had that many sacks? I mean, John Abraham was playing defensive end. I mean, they invested a lot of money this offseason in getting a pass rush, and it looks
really great last time, Mog. They already great last night.
Every time I looked up, they looked like there was 4 guys coming at Allen, and they had him contained.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times he breaks out of that, and you would think on that surface he might have an advantage, and he did not. I mean, they were all over.
Where do you fall on them as the comp being Detroit, and that they're really the Kirkland brand of Detroit?
Well, I mean, Detroit, I think, is limited weirdly when they have to pass so much. If they can get their running game going, then they are. It's still that thing like Goff. There's a part of me that doesn't trust Goff when you need to trust Goff. And Penix is Penix, we think, oh, he must be an athlete. He doesn't run ever.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
And he is, if there's a comp between those two, it's not probably that far off. And you got Algiers playing the Montgomery role. You got Bijan playing the Gibbs role. You've got Drake playing the Drake London playing the Amon Ra. Pitts has actually been serviceable this year, so I could see it. I mean, you're getting them at a good value, and I don't think they're done. I think they're going to start to make some noise, just because of the way they are figuring out their defense.
And I guarantee if I had any sports book from boss from Las Vegas or Atlantic City on this show, and I said, what's the comp or the difference between Algier and Robinson versus Gibbs and Montgomery, I wouldn't have to get those words out of my mouth before he'd say zero. Yeah, absolute zero.
Their offensive line is probably not quite as good because they've been dealing with some injuries. They're still missing their right tackle. But no, I'm just saying, if I was to pick which offensive
line. Well, I know, but Mike, this is a parody, not bad, but a parody NFL, and they fit. They fit. I don't know who's in the Super Bowl yet, but they fit. They sent out such a smoke signal last night that they're right for this NFL.
Listen, I don't like to say nice things about teams I hate. So I don't mean to, but you forced me into it. Yes, the Falcons are a problem, and I don't care for it.
Okay.
This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical.
Broken record, Carolina and the Bears are the same team to me. Same record. Carolina makes things look easier than the Bears. So I'm 53-47 that Carolina's further along in the road to recovery than the Chicago Bears are. That's just my take. Other side note, which would also go back to my comment about how there's no such thing as a good running back, Rico Dowdle becomes the first running back, I believe, in the history of the game to go back-to-back 200 yards from scrimmage and never have been drafted. Okay, so when you do think that Henry has a half a point or more effect on a game, there's guys like Dowdle that are a step from being at Wendy's that go for 200, running behind the Carolina. That's not, the Hogs from Washington in the 80s. Okay, it's Carolina 2025. Give the guy credit. Give the guy credit. And Hubbard also ran big as well, so that offensive line is better than Chicago's. If we're going to go dime for dime, I think they're a better team than the Bears.
I'm going to push back on you played the Eberflus Bumps, and you played the Dolphins. Those are two of the worst. We just talked about them being two of the worst.
And he made it look that way, Mike. He went over 200 yards.
It's impressive to do, but it's like playing on turbo mode when you play those teams.
Tell that to every other running back who can't.
That's exactly why I'm a moron for betting on Dallas ever to win a game, because you're like, you cannot rely on it. They could not get a stop in a flag football game. If they were having to pull flags, they wouldn't have been able to get a stop. That's how bad that team.
I agree. The public's been getting killed. So this time last year, I'm taking it to the streets. We just have the moaning and talking about the fact that the public, Joe Sixpack, the guy that bets parlays, the guy that bets in-game, the guy that bets teasers, was having his way with the book. If you remember, that was the once-in-a-thousand-year flood season where the public beat the house, where the house FanDuel and DraftKings I'm using as my modicum of who the house is, but there's thousands of sports books, but they're the two largest. So you have to use them as the Dow Jones of sports books. And they had to take out a special loan because they were getting killed. This year, adults have come back to the room and we're back to seeing you have to understand value in order to survive. So last year was, a game like Green Bay, Cincinnati. Green Bay would have rolled. This year, early in the week, so this time a week ago, and I was bummed out that I didn't put it in my 3-pack, was Green Bay was laying 14.5. Cincinnati was plus 14.5. Well, guess what? That got just absolutely munched up by the smart money. They didn't need it, but that 14.5 was long gone by Wednesday. So just an FYI, too many games like that where the sharps are back. Buffalo's been killing you. So if you're the guy, again, that watches ESPN and can't get off James Cook and Josh Allen and you don't follow Taking to the Streets, we've let you know it early, at least I have. Look for another person to make your hero than Buffalo. Because if you don't, you're going to be like Bobby Brady when Jesse James's buddy comes and tells him that Jesse James is actually a bad guy episode. Okay? That's who it's, if you can't get off the Buffalo thing, this is not, you can run on them, Mike, at will. You can run on them all day long. Go ask Bijan. Let's have Rico Dowdle run against Buffalo. See if he can go for 200. So, and that's
they definitely need to get Milano back. I mean, there are certain guys that are critical to their defense, like Fred Warner's injury. That
was huge, and that takes me right. That takes me on the last one. I can't read Tampa. I absolutely can't read Tampa. I love the team. I love the Bulls. I really do. I hate the impending but coming. The but is I in my heart in my head versus my heart, I think they're a paper tiger. It's just something that's in my head. I don't want to say it because I really do love Tampa, all things Tampa, and I love how they've been able to shift on the offensive line. I like how Rashad's come in admirably for Bucky Irving. The list goes on and on. Ibukwa has been great as a rookie, so forgive the but. It's just my head saying I think they're a paper tiger. I think they found teams at the right moment. I despise the one against the Jets, which was way too close for comfort. Those ones stick out to me. That's a team you got to beat by 30. That's what gets me off Denver a little bit. I love Denver against Philly, but to struggle with the Jets like that,
that's a bad spot. Yeah, but that's a bad spot to go a big win against Philly and then have to go to.
Yeah, and they did win.
And they did get the win. And they'll get a test this week with the Giants.
Right.
Because I also think, but I've been a Bucs fan for too long not to be very cautious.
I want to trust them, and Bowles gets no credit for having a ridiculous coaching tree.
He does.
Look at his coaching tree. I mean, does Liam Cohn, forget it, he was only here for 1 year, but he still kind of counts on the coaching tree. Bowles did hire him. Dan Campbell's on the coaching tree. Canellis is on the coaching tree. That's solid. Folks, again, get over it. Carolina is moving the needle forward. They really are.
Canellis gets credited, he was with Pete Carroll. I was like, Pete Carroll didn't get him a head coaching job. Todd Bowles did.
But I think it discount what Dowdle's done. And to me, that is such a statement to Canellis and that offensive line that Carolina's moving in the right direction.
I listen, there has not been anyone who has proven how stupid they are on this podcast other than me. I think every week for the last 4 weeks, I've gone against Carolina and I have not won a single game. I'm not touching Carolina.
All right, boss. So Mike comes off of a 1-2. I come off of a 2-1. The T is still Mike's because he is 10-8 for the season. I'm 8-10. Take it from here, Mike.
All right. Well, I looked before we got on because I do pay attention to injuries that I think are significant, and I'm going to take the Eagles. I hate it. I think something is rotten in Philadelphia, and it's not the cheesesteaks. But Jalen Carter did not play against the Giants, and they got pushed around. And then I looked up the reason why he didn't play, and it's because of the field at MetLife. Supposedly, he was dealing with a nagging injury, but that should be. I mean, how are NFL stadiums? There are certain NFL stadiums that people routinely get hurt at, and the Giants is one of them. And it kind of makes sense not to play a guy on a short week if he's dealing with any kind of injuries, where you're adding the additional component of a crappy field. So he is apparently practicing and is apparently going to play. And I think he makes their defense it makes a huge difference. I still, I can't trust Carson Wentz. I mean, there's a reason he's been on 6 teams in 6 years, and I understand he's seen a lot. And I don't like going against O'Connell because I think he's the quarterback whisperer, but I think that defense is ready to get after a bad offensive line. They're coming off the bye. They haven't played in a while. The Eagles had your favorite mini bye, and I'm either going to go down with the sinking ship. I win either way, because if the Eagles lose, I'm happy. But I also think that the Vikings are not a team. I mean, what's going on with McCarthy, JJ McCarthy? I mean, this injury seems a little suspect to me. If I'm being honest. I mean, I think they realize that he's not ready, and that's a good thing. That's a smart organization. But be honest. Don't say that this ankle injury is what's holding him up. It's been weeks, and they aren't going to put him out there against the Eagles. That is not where you do it. But to me, I think it's a little disingenuous. He got the player of the week that first week, which was he had one good quarter, and then he has had every other quarter he's played, he's been pretty bad. And he was a guy at Michigan who didn't have to throw the ball. Now he's been coached by 2 of the best, John Harbaugh and Kevin O'Connell. So if he's going to figure it out, he's going to figure it out in the situations he's in. But this is an ankle injury that has lasted a little long, and I smell something there. But I just feel like the Eagles have to get it right. I think they're the better team. I know it's -2.5. It's on the road, but I'm going to take Philly. I can't believe I'm uttering this phrase, but I'm going to take the Falcons +2.5 in San Francisco. I enjoy a Kirkland brand hot dog. I enjoy Kirkland brand vodka. I'll take the Kirkland brand version of the Detroit Lions. It is not so much of a bet on the Falcons as it is a bet against San Francisco. I think that the injuries have there's a tipping point. Fred Warner is a point mover. That guy controls the defense. If you heard during the broadcast, they were talking about Saleh loves him. Saleh says, look, this guy understands everything. The Bucs offense really took off when Warner went down. I mean, they started getting the ball to their tight end. They started, exploiting guys. Now they'll have an extra week to be ready. But
you know what it reminded me of, Mike? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it reminded me when Warner went down the other day in Tampa. It reminded me of when Dre Greenlaw went down in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
The whole thing changed in Kansas City's favor in the second half when Greenlaw went down.
Yeah. And he calls the plays. He's got the red dot.
Yep.
So it's a huge change in responsibility.
That's why I'm glass half empty with Tampa.
Yeah. And the thing that I don't like taking a team after a big win, and it's a short week and you're going out to San Francisco. A lot of the factors aren't favoring this, but I do think that one of the things that a lot of coaches have problems with is when they go up against Shanahan, they don't have a ton of experience against him. Well, where has Raheem Morris been the defensive coordinator for the last 4 years, 5 years? He's been in the Rams, And he knows that offense as well as anyone. He's coached with a guy who is a Shanahan disciple in McVay. Mm-hmm. So he knows it's not going to be something he can't prepare his team, which a lot of times Shanahan gives you a competitive advantage. And so I'm betting on Raheem, and I'm betting on the Falcons, and I'm betting on the Falcons and the Eagles. I mean, this is, I think I might have just thrown up in my mouth a little. So
a dry heave.
Yes. My last pick is I'm taking the Seahawks -3. I don't like that they don't win at home. It's weird. I don't know why I'm taking them. I know they don't win at home, but I can't trust the Texans. That offensive line is as bad as any offensive line in football. I mean, it's like Bengals level bad. And I don't trust that Stroud, they've given Stroud more responsibility this year. He's actually calling the line plays where before it was done by the center, which is good. It's something you need to learn, but it's hard to learn. And it's even harder to learn when you have bad interior offensive linemen. Where is Seattle's strength? It's up the middle with Leonard Williams and that defensive line, and they are very weak in the middle. I think that the Seahawks, like that Jacksonville game, Jacksonville, that is a team I don't get at all. Jacksonville, I'm starting to worry about them because they seem to shoot themselves in the foot.
No, they're so green. They're so green. I mean, they're just absolutely green.
But Trevor Lawrence, at some point, he's got terrible body language. He's, nothing is ever seems to be his fault. He's always, and weirdly, like the Jacksonville fans all, it's Brian Thomas's fault. I'm like, Lawrence is throwing hospital balls out there. I mean, he is, to me, that game showed me a lot with Seattle. And it's not just because I took them and it was my only win, but it was to go across country, play in the heat, play in that smelly city, and to go and take advantage of, I mean, they just handled them. That's what you want to do. They are weirdly a great team to bet on the road. They are not a particularly good team to bet on home. So of course I'm taking them when they're at home, but I just think the Texans, even with the bye, are a team that I cannot trust because I do not trust bad offensive lines.
Gotcha.
What bad offensive lines not do? They do not travel. Yeah. And that place will be loud with their idiot fans, the 12s. I don't like them either. I should tell you. Because I went to the Germany game with the Bucs, and there's not a more weird, obnoxious group of people. I mean, my brother and I met this guy is. He's like the mascot for the Seahawks, and everybody was like, "Oh, the captain is here." The captain. I was like, "What a bunch of weirdos!"
You hear everybody and everything, Mike. Give me a team you like other than Tampa, a fan base and a team that you like. Because you are beyond the curmudgeon-y.
I like the Chargers. I do like the Chargers.
Okay.
Right.
So, folks, and this is gonna crack you up, Mike. So, Mike and I, all we do during our quasi prep, which is in existence, this is all ad lib, and always will be. The same thing with Rich. All ad lib. You get what you get from taking it to the streets. We confer earlier in the day, today, Tuesday, about what the lines are at DraftKings. Confer meaning I send Mike what the lines are to go off of. That's it. We don't share picks. We don't say, hey, I'm going to go with this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I don't mean to chestnut. I'm 2-0 versus Mike head on when we take opposite teams.
But the spread doesn't matter in any one of them. I just picked the game wrong.
Correct.
I realize that.
Correct. I understand. So I'm 2-0 against Mike in our head-ons. Is that true, Mike?
That is true. I
have 2 games.
35%.
I have 2 games this week where I'm going to be on the opposite of Mike. That we just absolutely.
So I'll be back to even. Nice.
The funny thing about the way, again, it couldn't be more quintessential. because Mike is not a believer in key numbers. I want to walk everybody through the rhyme behind the reason of the 2 games. Actually, the 3 games that I've selected all have to do with the key number. The most key number, if for those that observe, me definitely being of that group, is 3. 3 is just under 15% of all NFL games have ended on 3. Mike would agree. That is an undeniable. That is far and away the keyest of key numbers if you so observe. Here's where it goes for me, where it went in my handicapping, is I look at what the opening number is. I specifically glom on to the squarest books in the world because I know those being DraftKings as well as FanDuel versus sharper books that take syndicate money and action and big money and all that kind of stuff. I have access to all that kind of stuff. But I really glom onto the opening number at FanDuel and DraftKings because I know that people that bet there bet parlays, bet in-game, idiotic bets, and also bet teasers, a cousin to a parlay. A big player doesn't bet that. It's too smart to do that. A sharp guy would never bet a teaser, a parlay, anything like that. But someone at DraftKings and FanDuel, they think it's fun. They think it's cute. Oh my God, I get to adjust the number by 6 points in exchange for VIG? Great, sign me up. So, of all 3 of these games I'm about to give you, the line opened at 2.5, which means if you adjusted 6 points, they would then be a winner at 3.5. So the keyest number is 3. Point being, they don't like these teams. They're begging a square to bet against these teams because of the 2.5, which adjusts the 6. Adjust the 3.5 per the 6. If you follow what I'm saying. So,
I just want to say, Andy, I resemble that remark.
Okay. So Minnesota opened up as a 2.5 point home dog. They've actually stayed there. That's still 2.5. Give them 6, give Philly 6. That makes Philly a winner on a field goal. That makes Philly a very, very undesirable chalk in the minds of the squarest people on earth. Run, guard the children, hide. Minnesota plus 2.5. Dallas plus 2.5. Mike did not mention that one. Same exact thing. Washington opened 2.5. They've stayed 2.5. Washington is a winner on a 6-point teaser at 3.5. Undesirable chalk. Dallas plus 2.5.
If it's any consolation, I have the Commanders crossed out.
Unbelievable. So that would have been unbelievable. And the last one, same story.
Here, let me put my backwards hat on for you so that we can.
I love it, but it's not as good as wearing like a Mayfield jersey. So, and the last one would be Houston plus the 3. Folks, again, it's got nothing to do with the team. It's got everything to do with the number. So if you have followed one more time, opened as a 2.5 point favorite makes them a winner on 3 points, the keyest number. Opened as a 2.5 point favorite, give me 6 on the teaser, makes me winner on the keyest of numbers. You believe or you don't believe. I'm on Mini plus 2.5. I'm on Dallas plus 2.5. I'm on Houston plus 3. Mike, till we meet again here on Taking It to the Streets.
Goodbye from St. Pete. And remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade. So never too high, never too low, till we meet again.